What is up, Patreon, and welcome back to another episode of Flick Fan Nation. Now, I told you guys that I was going to do a live stream on Saturday, and if you didn't see the story that I put up, I was having some issues, found out it was actually the internet. It would not pick up my stream transfer from OBS to the actual YouTube live stream, and because of that, I could not YouTube live stream from Get Vocal. It's one big convoluted stream of different sites, but at the end of the day, the Wi-Fi it wasn't working very well for me, and I started uploading a video Saturday morning, and thank goodness I was planning on putting it up at 2 anyway. I did a scheduled upload, but my goodness, my Wi-Fi was so slow. It normally takes a video that's about 7 minutes long. It takes it around 15 minutes to upload with my apartment Wi-Fi. This took 2.5 hours. So, to upload a 7-minute video taking 2.5 hours, there was no way I was doing any kind of live streaming on Saturday. I actually have an appointment scheduled with Spectrum this week. That's how bad it got. So no live stream, but I got a really good idea from Marley, who just consistently kills it on the community page, giving awesome ideas. And I know there's still plenty of ideas I've not gotten to yet. And this idea is good enough. Honestly, I could do a YouTube video on this eventually, an actual legit ranking video, except I would include more than 10. I'd probably go like 25. But I love this idea because what I'm doing in today's episode is I'm taking the top 10 all-time worldwide earners at the box office, and I'm ranking them in order of how much I enjoy them. And it kind of stinks, honestly, because this is going to be a very Marvel-centric episode, whether you guys are a big fan of the MCU or not, because, you know, clearly I'm a big superhero guy, so a lot of the top 10 they are superhero movies, and they're my favorites. Therefore, they're going to be at the top. So it's going to look like I'm kind of bashing, I don't want to say The Little Guy, because they're all the highest grossing movies of all time, so they're not The Little Guy. But, call me a Marvel shill if you want. Guys, I love these movies. I love the MCU. You guys know this. You've been with me long enough to where you understand. But I want to see your lists, of course. You guys know the spiel, this thing I always say. I want to see your lists in the comments below. I find it interesting. Looking at these films. They're so different. They're so... Obviously, they're the best of the best, according to the public, because that's the ones that the public paid to see the most, and they were the ones that were the most interesting at the time, and they were the ones that capitalized on the nostalgia when you look at a movie like Jurassic World, and capitalized on tragedy when you look at a movie, and I hate to say it like that, but Furious 7 kind of... with the death of Paul Walker, it was a bad deal, and everybody wanted to come and see this movie and to see how they wrote him out of the film. So, and I want to say, before I give my actual ranking, I do not dislike any of these movies. I know a lot of people hate on Avatar, and I understand. It's not the best movie in the world. I really enjoy it, but I haven't seen it in about 4 or 5 years, so I definitely want to preface with that. And I can't, looking at this list, I'm staring at it right now, I can't find a movie that I don't like. There are some people that don't like Furious 7. There are some people that don't like Titanic. There are some people that do not like The Force Awakens. But I enjoy all of them. They're all, I believe, a 70 or higher. I think I gave the lowest one a 70. And then, of course, my number one is a really high score. Can't figure that out, what that's going to be. But we're going to rank them. That's what we're doing today. But first, I want to give the actual order of where they are money-wise. So you have number 1, Avatar, $2.7 billion. Number 2, Avengers Endgame. Right now, at the time of this recording, almost $2.5 billion. So you're about $300 million behind because it was actually 2.78. I rounded down for some reason. Number 3, Titanic, 2.18. Number 4, The Force Awakens, almost 2.1. Number 5, Avengers Infinity War at 2.05, I'm sorry. Number 6, Jurassic World at 1.67. Number 7, Marvel's The Avengers at 1.5. Number 8, Furious 7 at 1.5. Number 9, Avengers Age of Ultron at 1.4. And number 10, Black Panther. at $1.34 billion. That's the top 10. That's what we have to work with today. So let's start ranking them in terms of my enjoyment. Which ones are my favorite? Which ones are my least favorite? And I actually hate to do this because this is, once again, a movie that I enjoyed and one of the better films in the Fast and Furious franchise. But if we're looking at comparing it to the other movies on this list, I am putting Furious 7 at number 10. Once again, I enjoyed this movie. I think it's full of some of the better performances of all of the movies. I think it has a great depth of emotion that not a lot of the other Fast and Furious movies have. And I don't mean to laugh when I'm saying that, but Fast and Furious is not a franchise that is known for the performances or even the script or the character investment. Like, none of that really plays any relevance until you look at a movie like Furious 7, which had good characters. It had a level of emotion to it that the other movies just don't have. Fast 5 is still my favorite, but Furious 7 is still a solid movie, even though it's number 10 on this list. 10 out of 10. Sorry, buddy. You're at the bottom. Next up. Sorry, I had to take a drink of my pop. I don't want to say brandless. My brandless pop. It's Coke Zero. Next up is Jurassic World. And, you know, I liked Jurassic World when it first came out. And then I heard the backlash, which, you know, every major blockbuster gets backlash. That's just going to happen. But Jurassic World seemed to get it worse than a lot of movies at the time. And it's warranted because it does have its problems. I don't think the character is the best. I think there are many subplots with the kids especially that just do not work. The scene on the train where the kid starts crying about the parents about to get a divorce, that's still just, it was so off-putting for me at the time. But you know what? I still enjoyed the movie. A lot of fun with Chris Pratt. I don't like the second one that much, but I think the first one really encapsulated a lot of nostalgia in a good way. In a good way, because that's what I was afraid. I was afraid it was going to try to, and it kind of did, capitalize on the name of Jurassic Park. You know, you got the music cues, and Colin Trevorrow, I think this franchise needed another director. I don't think he's the strongest director. I just don't. It's one of the reasons why they took him off of Episode 9. It's one of the reasons why I don't think they wanted him back for the second Jurassic World, even though I think his direction was a bit stronger than J.A. Bayonna's, and I love J.A. Bayonna, but he just, you know what? I'm going to go back on that. I don't think the problem with the second Jurassic World was J.A. Bayonna. I think the problem was the writing, and Colin Trevorrow was one of the writers. So, yeah, think about that, and take out of that what you will, but maybe I'm just not the biggest fan of Colin Trevorrow. Nonetheless, Jurassic World is number 9. Still enjoy the movie. Another movie that I enjoy, but when comparing it to other movies in the MCU, it's just not the best. And that's number 8, Avengers: Age of Ultron. I've talked about this movie until I've been blue in the face over the last few months. Same with all of the movies in the MCU. I will just say this. Age of Ultron had a lot of missed opportunities. Ultron could have been and should have been the Darth Vader of the MCU. He just wasn't. They didn't do him justice. The trailers made him look like the most BA villain Marvel was ever going to have. And he was too witty. He was too much like a Tony Stark. He didn't get enough fleshing out, and the third act was so similar to the first Avengers that I was disappointed with the movie. Once again, good moments, good characters, funny. Number 8 on this list, so clearly I like it a bit more. And funny thing is, all 3 of these movies that I've talked about came out in 2015. 2015 was a massive year for movies. But my favorite of the bunch was Avengers: Age of Ultron, even though my score is still around a 7 out of 10, a 70%. And then we come to a movie that so many people hold in such high regard, James Cameron's masterpiece, according to a lot of people, and that is Titanic. You know what's crazy? I'm not the biggest fan of Titanic. I like it. I think it's good. Actually, I think it's really good. But I don't think it's great. I don't think it's as great as a lot of people make it out to be. I think for the time, 1997, I think it was I can see why people considered it a masterpiece. Got a great romance. There's some decisions made in this movie that I'm not the biggest fan of. And there are some things about it that, I look back on and I say, maybe that's a bit dated in terms of filmmaking. And it's so crazy to say that because I look at a movie like Terminator, I look at other James Cameron films, and they don't feel as dated as Titanic. I don't know, maybe it's the romance, maybe he's just not the best. But you know what? Once again, it's been like, I think the last time I watched Titanic, honestly, was when I watched Avatar. So I need to go back and watch these two James Cameron movies. I'm just not the world's biggest Titanic fan, even though clearly I enjoy the movie because I put it above the other three. But that is why it's at number 7 on my list. I think I'll get a lot of flack for that if I was to do a YouTube video, just because there are so many fans that, went back to the theater, obviously, 10 or 12 times to watch it because, it's the number 3 highest grossing movie of all time. So clearly, people enjoyed it. I take nothing away from that. Number 6 for me is Avatar. I liked Avatar. I thought it was really good. I don't think it's, Best Picture nomination good, like it actually got nominated for. I don't think it's a masterpiece. People were saying it at the time. It's just, it didn't impact pop culture. Hardly at all. I mean, it did for about a year, maybe 2 years. Up until about 2011, 2012. People were, I guess, walking around dressed like avatars during Halloween, and that's all people could talk about for a year. But then you get movies like The Avengers and The Force Awakens, and it feels like an afterthought. Now, it's still the highest grossing movie of all time at this point, but the film never stayed relevant. I mean, you got the theme park. That's great. Avatar World, Pandora, awesome. And the visual effects at the time were stunning. Absolutely stunning. One of the best visual experiences I've ever had in the theater. I don't care if you hate the movie. It still looked great. Heck, there are some Transformers movies that looked great in the theater. The earlier ones, not the later ones. But Avatar just doesn't have that it factor that I think a movie being number 1 of all time at the box office should have. That's why it's an anomaly. That's why so many people are still to this day baffled at the fact that it made $2.7 billion. But whatever, number 6 on my list. Still enjoy the movie. I thought it was good. I don't think the story is the strongest, but it was interesting. It was intriguing to me. And, I'm excited to see where they go with the sequel, even though I don't have the utmost confidence in the sequel. I don't think the sequel can do what James Cameron expects it to do and warrant 3 more sequels after that. Whatever. But, still excited to see it and where they go with it. Number 5 for me is Black Panther. I'm one of those people that really enjoyed Black Panther. I truly enjoyed it. I thought it was solid. I thought the direction by Ryan Coogler was great. My big issue is the CGI in the third act. I think there's too much. There's just too much going on in the battle. You get the rhinoceroses, and I know that's comic book accurate, whatever. But there's still great elements. I mean, music, looks, cinematography, color, the emotion. Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. Guys, Black Panther's awesome. Truly is. And I'm so glad, I'm not glad that it was the first because I don't think it should have been the first. I think Dark Knight and Logan. But I am glad that it did get acknowledged for the things that I believe it deserved to get acknowledged for at the Oscars. I don't think it deserved Best Picture nomination, but it's still cool to see that it got that. Next up, number 4, is The Avengers, the first one. 2012 made a ton of money. I mean, it was breaking records like crazy. It didn't get close to Avatar, really, but this was the first time that we saw all of these heroes' characters together on screen. And it was truly a sight to see. Joss Whedon, no matter what you say about the guy, he didn't kill it with Age of Ultron. He, didn't turn Justice League into a masterpiece like everybody expected him to. No. But he gave us a story that brought together so many heroes and so many great character actors in a way that was intriguing, engaging, got the audience fired up, and delivered on the theatrical experience. Still to this day, my number 1 experience in the theater. I've said that 1,000 times. I hate to keep repeating myself. But I love The Avengers, guys. I truly love it. Number 3, Star Wars The Force Awakens. Now, this one gets very close to my number 2. And it's actually been about 2 years since I've watched The Force Awakens, mostly because, scratch that, maybe about 1 year. But mostly because the fandom behind Star Wars just got so annoying, got so unnerving, that it kind of it kind of pushed me away from the franchise a bit. Even last year with Solo, after The Last Jedi had, well, I guess kind of died down, not really. I just got this icky, because I'm one of those people, I enjoyed The Last Jedi for what it was. You know, I really liked the movie. I thought Rian Johnson did an awesome job. Is it the best Star Wars movie? No. But is it a great movie? I say yes, even though there were moments that I didn't like about it. But the fandom just really pushed me away from this franchise. Regardless, The Force Awakens is my favorite of the new movies. I love this movie. I know it harkens back to the original. I know they're pulling on the heartstrings. I know they're bringing nostalgia into it. A lot of people compare it to Jurassic World in that way. But I look at J.J. Abrams' direction, I just think it's a lot better handled than Jurassic World. I think it looks good. It feels like Star Wars, more like Star Wars than The Last Jedi or Solo. The Force Awakens just captured that magic for me. It gave us the Rey's theme, which is incredible. The character of Rey, which a lot of people like to say is a Mary Sue, but I compare her to other characters, even in the Marvel universe, and I'm like, if she's a Mary Sue, then wouldn't he be a Mary Sue? I don't know. People just, they want to complain about things. And I get it. If you have a major issue with it, and it causes you not to like the movie, you have a right to complain. I just got really hardcore complaints, like in my Last Jedi review, of people calling me a dog and cursing me because I enjoyed the movie. And that, just kind of pushed me away from the franchise. Regardless, I know it sounds like I'm being negative, but I love this movie. I truly do. I think it's amazing. I need to go back and kind of compare it to Infinity War, because they're both in my top 50 movies of all time, and they're very close to each other. But right now, I have Force Awakens rounding to more of a 90%, and Infinity War at number 2, which is my next movie, rounding to, I think I have it right at 95, so I guess rounding to a 10 out of 10. But yeah, that's my number 2, Infinity War. You guys know what 2 and 1 is. 2 is Infinity War, 1 is Endgame. I just love these two movies. I love them, love them, love them. Now, on my MCU list, there are 2 movies separating these two. That's how close they all are. On my MCU list, I have Endgame, Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War. But they're still so close in terms of how much I enjoy them. And I find this so interesting because Infinity War is a part 1, basically. Endgame is a part 2. They're a great 1-2 punch. Great 1-2 punch. I can't wait to get them both, watch them at home, back to back, Infinity War, Endgame, because they're such different movies. And the reason that I like Endgame a bit more is because Infinity War felt more like, and I'm not saying it is, felt more like a generic Avengers movie. As in, you have the build-up, you have the characters coming together, you have the villain, which, this film obviously focused more on the villain, made Thanos the focal point, which is awesome, and I take nothing away from that. But you still had the giant third act battle without anything else happening, right? Except for the snap, which the snap was crazy. But this movie, you have the build-up in the first hour, but the build-up is more of what happened in the prior movie, all of the characters trying to handle that emotionally, right? So the build-up is a bit different than your standard Avengers movie. Then you have the second hour, which is unlike anything I've ever seen in any other Avengers movie, and that, for me, is what Infinity War does not have. Infinity War felt like I could have predicted most of the movie, except for the snap, of course. I guess some people could have predicted that because it's in the comics. But Endgame, going back, well, do I want to spoil things? Have you guys watched? Okay, here, I'm gonna give the major spoiler thing, even though the Russos have lifted the ban. If you have not seen Endgame, do not go past this point, I guess. But in the second act of Endgame, you have characters going back through all of the movies that we love and some of the movies that we don't love. It makes me appreciate Thor: The Dark World a bit more. And finding resonance within themselves, having other characters that have played small roles in the movies before push characters forward in a way that we've never seen in the MCU. You have Cap's moment where he sees Peggy through the blinds. You have Tony's moment with his father, Thor's moment with his mother. You have Thanos coming back into the picture, traveling back into the third act. I mean, all of these things. It's unlike anything we have ever seen in a comic book movie. And that is what sets Endgame apart from the first Avengers, Age of Ultron, and Infinity War. Infinity War has the snap. Nothing will ever take away the snap because that is one of the craziest moments in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But Endgame has 2 snaps, which I guess is better than one. But it has that second act where the characters are time traveling. It has that leftovers feel where, half the population is gone, not just on planet Earth, but everywhere. It has the emotion between Cap and Iron Man, between the fathers and the sons and the fathers and the daughters, Iron Man and his daughter. It just has so many things that we've never seen, and that's the reason why I have Endgame at number 1, barely over Infinity War. I love them both. I actually love my top 5. I think my top 5, they're all great movies. The other 5, they're not too bad themselves. I really enjoy them to just liking them, and that's okay. But that's my list. That's my top 10 of the highest box office grossers of all time. I want to see your all's lists. Thank you so much, Marley, for the idea. This was a lot of fun. I love ranking things. I know that's Sean Chandler's thing, apparently, according to some people that like to yell at me in the comments. But he does it better, but I can still do it. And it's still fun, and I still enjoy it. And I appreciate you guys for all of the ideas. And I appreciate you guys for listening to and watching this video. You're the absolute best, as always. And I'll catch you very soon.